This is the final video in the Upgrades I Can't Afford series, and here we have 3 items. The first is the most pathetic, footboards. The second is the most urgently needed, handlebar risers. And the third and last is the most unnecessary and the most expensive, wide wheels. So first, footboards. I need footboards. I get some significant pain in the side and the sole of my left foot. And you can imagine with a round footrest, your foot resting on it for several hours, it starts to hurt. And the cure is quite obvious, footboards instead of foot pegs. Fortunately, Triumph do a footboard kit for the Speedmaster. Fits the bobber, obviously, but it costs £520. The reason it's so much is it includes the fitting rods and the pedals and the hangers and all the fixings. It is in fact a huge kit. I'm not entirely sure why it includes the new foot pedals. Perhaps the old pedals don't fit around the boards, I don't know. But it doesn't much matter because it's that expensive. Even if I could afford them, I don't think I'd stretch that far for footboards. And also on my bike, I don't know that they would fit on my Speed forward control extensions. I think the rods would be too short, so it would be pointless spending the extra. But that's not what's pathetic. This is. I had some Karayakin premium footboards. They were left over after I sold my Sportster. Admittedly, they weren't in the best of condition, but they were plenty good enough. And I looked up to see if they would fit my Triumph, and they wouldn't, which was a real shame. It seems that the splined adapters that Karayakin offer, they only fit the air-cooled bikes, the older bikes, so I thought, well, I might as well sell them. But imagine my dismay when I looked on the forums, and some people had fitted them to their Speedmasters. It seems that although Karayakin say they only fit the old Triumphs, the splined adapters do fit the water-cooled ones. So I'm stuck. I need to get new footboards, which would be about £270. I need to get the splined adapters, which would be another £50. And, well, it's a problem I have with a painful foot, but unbeknownst to me it was solved even before I knew it existed. But I solved the answer. That's what's pathetic. Or maybe just tragic. The next upgrade I can't afford is handlebar risers. Now, some time ago I did a video of handlebars for the Speedmaster, and I concluded there that I need high bars, and they work well enough. But the Speedmaster as standard comes with beach bars, and beach bars are lovely. It's just that for me, they don't have the pullback I need. I need to be able to sit more upright on my bike. Now, I did have the Motone 1-inch up and over risers, and I paired that with the Rox 4-inch pivoted risers. Working together, it was okay, but it just wasn't quite far back enough. If you see my releasing its full potential video, you can see the whole story and what they look like. They did work, but they were quite unstable. But after some months, I did find that the riser bolts that go through the top yoke, they needed to be torqued down to 38 Newton meters. So now, I just tighten them up, I think, a little bit too much. I haven't got a torque wrench anymore, so I don't know for sure. But 38 Newton meters is a fair whack. And it's just needed to keep the bars solid, to tighten those nuts up a little bit more, I think, than they would be from the factory. But I would like to go back to beach bars in an ideal world. And as far as beach bars are concerned, the standard bars on the Triumph Speedmaster, they're excellent, I really like them. But I did see these classic bike bars from Raish, and they do look fabulous. They have 255mm, which is nearly 10 inches of pullback, which would be excellent, but they're 950mm wide, nearly 37 inches, a metre. It's just too wide. They would look great, but in Blighty, we're a crowded aisle. No one will be able to filter through lanes with bars that wide. So what I need is very long risers, perhaps 6.5, 165mm maybe. They need to be one-piece risers as well. This means that the bottoms need to be bolted straight into the top yoke, and the tops need to have the bar clamps on them already. This means that they're adjustable. You can move the bars up and down a little bit as necessary. Now the other option would be to get an extension welded between the clamps and the yoke fixings. I'm not so keen on this, it wouldn't be a very neat solution, but it would be much cheaper. But ideally a one-piece riser designed from scratch, that's what I'd love. But they would need to be probably CAD designed, they'd need to be CNC machined. This would all be great, it would mean they would be top quality and they'd be perfect for my requirements, but they would cost about £1,000 to design and manufacture. £1,000 for each set that would be. Apparently it'd probably only be £2,000 if you made 10 sets because you've already done the hard work. So maybe I could do that and then sell 9 sets on eBay. Trouble is, of course, that's still a £2,000 outlay. There are several companies about the place that do design and manufacture one-off pieces, and I did inquire, but I got no reply. But alas, back pain means that pull-back bars are essential for me. And beach bars, they do that very well, and they look and ride so good, it's just the way it should be. I've got high bars now, and they work, but they change the look of the bike so much. But it is okay for now because at least I can ride and it is comfortable. But I need custom risers. This is the latest and the most important upgrade that I can't afford. So last for all this series of videos is the wide wheels. I have a particular fondness for fat tyres, balloon tyres. I think they're nostalgic. For me, real motorcycling is done on bikes like these, cruisers. These are mile munchers. In fact, even when I was young, I never really liked sports bikes. Didn't really like fairings either. A bike to me should be naked. I only use a screen now because, well, it's my age. I need the wind protection. Perhaps it's also just my age that I don't like sports bikes. Either way, I like cruisers with big tyres, like the old bikes. Fortunately, most modern cruisers, they do have wide balloonish tyres. The Speedmaster, for instance, has on the front MT90 B16s. That's the alpha tyred code. M is for motorcycle and T corresponds to 130mm wide with a 90% height to width aspect ratio, and 16 is the diameter of the wheels. And with these alphanumeric numbers, there are others as well in the tyre codes, and these refer to light load capacities and inflation pressures and such, and it means there is in fact a difference between the MT90s and the 130/90. But the speed ratings are all the same and the sizes are all the same. I assume they can be used for exactly the same purpose. But the numbers I'm familiar with are the 130/90 B16. So on the rear there's a 150/80 R16. This is a metric tyre code. And it means that on the front the tyre is 130mm wide and on the back the tyre is 150mm wide, which is quite wide already. They're both 16-inch diameter wheels, but I'd like wider. Wider is better. Might not be better for handling, but I just love it. Now if, like me, you hanker after a wide wheel kit, well, the king of the wide wheels on Speedmasters and Bobbers is obviously Thornton 100, the company run by Jody Millhouse and his brother Evan. Thornton 100 builds are awesome and impressive, and there are lots of YouTube videos if you want to have a look at them. In 2021, GQ magazine said that the average price for a Thornton 100 custom bike was £35,000. To put that into some context, our first house cost £45,000. But Thornton 100, they are very expensive for everything. Even their rear light set is wildly expensive, £1,000, and that includes a £40 postage charge. But the Thornton 100 builds do include a 2-inch or 50mm wider steering yoke. This adds an incredible width, unimaginably massive. Imagine the tyres you can get in there. They also include titanium axles. The Thornton 100 stuff, well, they're incredible creations, but they are massively expensive. Not that that would stop me if I had the money. The second option would be another company doing similar. I found Canyon Motorcycles in California. They have a very large range of wheels they offer, up to 5.5 inches wide, And on the Speedmaster, the standard 16-inch wheels are 2.5 inches wide at the front and 3.5 inches at the rear. One problem here is that when you get to very wide rear wheels, it tends to push the sprocket outwards. It means the rear sprocket isn't in line with the front sprocket anymore. Canyon offer what they call a cush drive sprocket system, so they cover all the bases, but it does add to the expense. But, importantly for me anyway, they also offer a free Spirits belt drive kit. This replaces the nasty chain and sprockets. And if you saw my belt drive video, you'll understand why I hate chains and sprockets so much. Now as for prices, well, frankly, it's impossible to decipher from the website. But they do specify a minimum deposit of $1,500. Make of that what you will. And they also offer other parts like brake systems from Brembo, among others. I think they would be cheaper than Thornton, but honestly, it's still Fantasy Island prices. So option 3 might be just get new wider wheels, but not quite as wide as Thornton might do or Canyon might offer. I have seen, for instance, the Italian maker Kineo. They offer a 1 inch wider front and a 3/4 inch wider rear. They're much cheaper, but they would still be £3,000 plus with carriage and tyres and so on. And it'd be more than that if you had special finishes and colours and what have you. And on top of that, the lead time is over a year. So you don't want to be in a rush if that's the way you're going to go. The only other option I could see was perhaps to put wider tyres on the standard rims. So for instance, on the front of a standard Speedmaster, the wheel is 2.5 inches wide, which will carry a 130mm wide tyre. I have no idea what the maximum width would be. I've never found anyone who has put a wider tyre on the front, and I can't get any exact information. I don't think dealers would supply a wider tyre. Perhaps they're not even allowed, I don't know. But certainly, if the bike got any sort of guarantee, they'll only put the standard width tyre on, which you can understand. The rear tyre on a Speedmaster is 3.5 inches wide, which will hold a 150mm wide tyre. Now, unlike the fronts, I have seen many people on the forums who have put 170mm wide tyres on the back, including here Rye 956 from the Triumph Bobber forums. These, to me, look really great. It would be the cheapest way, though, to get wider wheels, but I don't know what width you could put on the front. I'm led to understand that you can't go wider than 170mm on the back. So, this has been the 7th and the last of the upgrades I can't afford video. I wonder, looking in from the outside, what do you think of all this? Do you think I'm being frivolous? Do you think these are unnecessary upgrades or even pointless? Perhaps all of them, I don't know, but to me, all these upgrades, they would go towards making the Speedmaster a perfect bike. Perfect, of course, is my interpretation. Anna is perfect as a wife for me, but only for me. So get over it, guys. But more than one person has said, you bought the wrong bike. Should have kept my Sportster, or perhaps got another Sportster instead. But in fact, I spent a similar amount of money upgrading my Sportster. Indeed, I only stopped because the electronics upgrade, which for a Harley is an RDRS or was, it's just too expensive. Technically, it's too challenging. Very simply, it works out cheaper to start with a whole new bike, one that's been designed from the start with all the electronics. And for me, that was a Speedmaster. So I have now things like cruise control, which is wonderful. I have ABS. Now obviously the Sportster does have ABS, front and rear, but honestly, I thought it was rubbish. But the Speedmaster ABS, it's really good. Wouldn't want to be without it now. I have traction control. This is excellent. These are all the things I wanted in a bike. But also with the Speedmaster, aesthetically it is beautiful. I love it. When I first saw it back in 2018, I couldn't believe how gorgeous it was. And having ridden it for a year, well, the handling, it's a revelation. I never knew a cruiser could handle so well. Bottom line, I love the Speedmaster. Some time ago, a YouTuber commented, Sportsters are kit bikes. He was talking about Harley Davidson Sportsters, and there is a saying that the rarest thing in the world is a standard Sportster. Well, in fact, I think all bikes are kit bikes. It's not like a car. On a motorcycle, you want to make it how you like, how you need it and how you love it. But with a car, it's just a car. You get in, you drive somewhere, and that's that. From the start, cars are generally comfortable and they do the job. But a motorbike is different. It's much more personal, more visceral and more gorgeous. And in terms of being a kit bike, the Bonneville Speedmaster, it's no different. Now on my Harley Sportster, the most important upgrade for me would have been rider aids or RDRS, but effectively this was impossible, technically and financially way beyond me. But this leaves me with a Triumph Speedmaster. If you see my next bike video, you'll see that I did look everywhere else. I looked at every option I could think of, and the Speedmaster was the only one that ticked the boxes. So even though I've had some incredible problems with my brand new Speedmaster, and even though I've managed to produce 7 videos of urgent upgrades that I can't afford, I still love my Speedmaster. And if you buy one, you will too. Cheerio, boys and girls.